A different debate tonight in style and substance from the gloves-off spectacle of last week's first presidential debate.
Mike Pence and Kamala Harris went head-to-head in Utah in the first and only vice presidential debate. And
KCAL 9 political reporter Tom Wade is live with a back and forth of tonight's debate. Tom.
And Pat and Juan, a very interesting debate tonight. I'm sure you saw it. It was very different than last week, much more civil as the candidates were able to debate the issues a little bit more than we saw between President Trump and Vice President Biden. And once again, COVID took center stage. A night of historic firsts. California Senator Kamala Harris takes the stage as the first black woman of South Asian descent and as the Democratic vice presidential nominee. Vice President Mike Pence on the other side of the stage, plexiglass separating the candidates after the COVID outbreak at the White House. Out of the gate, the virus was the first topic. Harris was first.
The vice president and the president were informed about the nature of this pandemic. They were informed that it's lethal in consequence, that it is airborne, that it will affect young people, and that it would be contracted because it is airborne. And they knew what was happening, and they didn't tell you. Can you imagine if you knew on January 28th, as opposed to March 13th, what they knew, what you might have done to prepare?
But I want the American people to know that from the very first day, President Donald Trump has put the health of America first. Before there were more than 5 cases in the United States, all people who had returned from China, President Donald Trump did what no other American president had ever done. And that was he suspended all travel from China, the second largest economy in the world.
On the vaccine, the two sparred over who is playing politics with the issue.
If the public health professionals, if Dr. Fauci, if the doctors tell us that we should take it, I'll be the first in line to take it, absolutely. But if Donald Trump tells us that we should take it, I'm not taking it.
The fact that you continue to undermine public confidence in a vaccine, if the vaccine emerges during the Trump administration, I think is unconscionable. And Senator, I just ask you, stop playing politics with people's lives.
The moderator pressed Vice President Pence about the president's health.
President Trump's doctors have given misleading answers or refused to answer basic questions about his health. And my question to each of you in turn is this information voters deserve to know?
And the transparency that they practiced all along the way will continue.
The candidates did take a moment to acknowledge the historical nature of the night. Senator Harris talked about her mother.
The thought that I'd be sitting here right now, I know would make her proud.
I also want to congratulate you, as I did on that phone call, on the historic nature of your nomination.
Thank you.
Most of the debate was civil relative to last week, but it did appear Vice President Pence interrupted Senator Harris a number of times. The topics included a range of other issues, including the economy.
And the truth and the fact is, Joe Biden has been very clear. He will not raise taxes on anybody who makes less than $400,000 a year.
He said he's going to repeal the Trump tax cuts.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
Joe Biden said twice in the debate last week that he's going to repeal the Trump tax cuts.
Health care.
If you love someone who has a pre-existing condition,
Thank you,
they're coming
Senator
for you.
Because Obamacare was a disaster. The American people remember it well. And President Trump and I have a plan to improve health care and to protect pre-existing conditions for every American.
The environment.
Do you believe that climate change poses an existential threat?
As I said, Susan, the climate is changing. We'll follow the science.
The west coast of our country is burning, including my home state of California.
And the two duked it out over the Supreme Court, with Vice President Pence trying to corner Senator Harris on whether a Biden administration would add justices to the Supreme Court as revenge for President Trump's latest Supreme Court appointment.
And do you know that of the 50 people who President Trump appointed to the Court of Appeals for lifetime appointments, not one is black? This is what they've been doing. You want to talk about packing a court? Let's have that discussion.
I just want the record to reflect she never answered the question.
The end of the debate focused on racial justice.
Where last week, the President of the United States took a debate stage in front of 70 million Americans and refused to condemn white supremacists.
He condemned the KKK, neo-Nazis, and white supremacists, and has done so repeatedly.
The next debate is scheduled for next week, and that would be, of course, against Joe Biden and President Trump. But it's unclear if that debate will happen or how it will happen if President Trump still has the coronavirus. Reporting live, I'm Tom Waite. Back to you in the studio.
All right, Tom, thanks so much for that.